안녕 친구들, 잘 지냈어요? 오늘은 무슨 날? 하나님께 예배하는 날. 자, 우리 이 시간 두 손 모으고 하나님께 기도하고 예배합시다. 하나님 감사합니다. 우리 사랑하는 친구들, 우리가 같이 교회에 나와서 얼굴을 볼 수 없고 또 예배하지 못하는 친구들도 많이 있지만 하나님 이 시간 하나님 앞에 예배할 때에도 도와주셔서 하나님 말씀 잘 듣고 하나님의 말씀을 잘 순종하는 친구들이 되도록 도와주세요. 예수님 이름으로 기도합니다. 아멘. 자, 우리 친구들 이 시간 무슨 시간일까요? Yes. We have to pray Jesus with a song. Okay, let's do it together, okay? Today's Bible story is Acts in New Testament, chapter 20, verse 9. Sleepy Eutychus falls from a window. Let's read it together. A young man named Eutychus was sitting in a window. He sank into a deep sleep as Paul talked on and on. Sound asleep, Eutychus fell from the third floor. When they picked him up from the ground, he was dead. Well, today we'll learn about the lesson that someone fell from the 3 stories all the way to the ground and died. Can you imagine seeing someone come back to life? Let's find out what today's Bible story is, okay? Remember, Paul and his friends traveled to many places. They traveled to different cities and countries, telling people about Jesus. It was a very important journey, and it was very, very important thing to teach them. You know why? Because many people had not heard about Jesus who had died on the cross for them. Well, Paul and his friends told many people Jesus was God's son. They wanted everyone to be saved in Jesus' name. Some people believed what Paul was saying and became believers. But some people did not like what Paul was saying and kicked them out of their cities. However, despite their many difficulties, Paul and his friends rejoiced in sharing the good news about Jesus with others. This time, Paul began his third missionary journey. On his missionary journey, Paul visited many churches and he helped and encouraged believers to grow stronger in their faith. One day, Paul and his friends stopped by a city called Troas, right there. The believers in Troas heard that Paul and his friends had arrived. They knew that Paul was a great follower of Jesus. They welcomed Paul and his friends. They wanted to hear how Paul preached the gospel to Jesus to many people. On Sunday, the believers in Troas met Paul and his friends. They worshipped and ate food together in an upper room. It was very busy and the whole room was full. And there was many lamps in the room upstairs where they were meeting. There was a young man named Eutychus. He was sitting in a windowsill because there was no space to sit. But in those days, there was no glass. Paul talked about Jesus. Paul spoke to the people. He talked for a long time. He kept on talking until midnight because he planned to leave the next day. While Eutychus was sitting on a windowsill next to an open window, he listened to Paul talking and became very tired and sleepy. But he tried not to fall asleep. But the room was hot from many lamps. He kept nodding his head and fall asleep slowly. But then, do you know what happened? Yes, something terrible happened. He fell out of the window from the third floor and died. Everyone was shocked and rushed downstairs to see what had happened. Eutychus was lying on the ground. He was dead. Everyone stood around his dead body crying and upset. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, what we could do? Well, Paul threw himself on top of Eutychus' dead body and he put his arms around him. Paul told everyone, don't worry, he's alive. And Paul prayed to God and asked him to bring Eutychus back to life. When Paul prayed, Eutychus came alive again. Now everyone is very happy. But it wasn't Paul's own power that brought him back to life. It was power of God in Paul. Well, after this, everyone backed up the stairs and continued their time together. In the morning, Paul left to continue his journey to tell people about Jesus. And the people took the young man home. They were greatly comforted because he was alive. And this miracle encouraging his friends in their faith in Jesus. Children, have you ever fallen asleep in church like Eutychus and fell up from your chair? Or have you had a hard time listening or bored? I know sometimes it's very difficult to sit still and quiet for a long time, especially when you're bored. But sitting still and quiet is good manners for others. So be quiet. Don't fall asleep, especially when everyone wants to hear the good news about Jesus, guys. Otherwise, we might fall off your chair. Alright? 친구들, let's pray. 하나님, 오늘은 유디거스가 창문에 앉아서 하나님의 말씀을 듣다가 떨어져서 죽었는데 폴이 하나님께 기도하여서 다시 살아난 하나님 말씀을 들었어요. 하나님, 하나님의 말씀을 들을 때 우리도 졸지 않고 하나님의 말씀을 잘 들을 수 있도록 도와주세요. 그리고 폴처럼 하나님의 말씀을 여기저기에 잘 전하고 다닐 수 있는 그런 귀한 친구들이 되도록 도와주세요. 예수님 이름으로 기도합니다. 아멘. 자, 우리 친구들 하나님 말씀을 들을 때 유티크스처럼 졸지 않았어요? 건강하고 잘 지내고 우리 예배 시간에 졸지 않기, 하나님 말씀 잘 읽기. 자, 우리 see you next Sunday. 다음 주에 봐요. 안녕.